In this movie, we'll explore the way the rules-based structure weld application interacts with a new module in NX that's called the Structure Designer. So on the screen, we have an assembly that was created with the new Structure Designer. And once this assembly is created, and it happens very easily, the next step will be that we're going to want to weld this assembly together. Select the Structure Weld application, and then we want to create welding joints. Now, there's a number of choices for what type of welding joints that you want to create. If you leave the choice at Inferred, and you've invoked this dialog from the Structure Designer application, then you see that you have a choice here to select Structure Designer objects. And let's take a look. Let me do this partially shade, and you can see that these blue the Structure Designer objects. Information is written on these objects to tell the weld application what type of welds and what edges the welds should be created on. So if we've selected those, and let's just go ahead and say Finish, notice that in heavy magenta color are welding joints that were created. If we take a look in the Part Navigator, you can see these welding joints that were created. If we take and look at the properties of one of these, you'll see that the welding feature is full of attributes, including the connected part information, and then the size and the ID of the weld is all captured as attributes on that weld feature. Now, that weld feature can also be annotated. It can be annotated on the face of a drawing, or it can be annotated on a modeling view using PMI fabrication. Let's take a look at how that works. So fabricate PMI, and we have choices for how we want to do that. We can certainly do this individually, pick one weld at a time, and if I say OK, you'll see that the weld symbol was created for that particular weld. Or what's probably more advantageous to do is to come down and say, I want to create weld symbols based on the structure design objects. And if we do that, and we circle the objects that we want to annotate, then the system will go and it'll look for common welds, and any common weld that are part of that corner will be grouped in to a single weld. Let's do that one more time. And you'll notice that it took the welds in this corner, grouped them by like type, and then created the proper weld symbol for them. Now, these weld features that are created are individual objects, and if you're working in managed mode and you save this part file, they will be exposed into Team Center as individual objects. Those individual objects can then participate in process planning and process simulation. It's important to note that the rules-based structure weld is a separate application from the Structure Designer. It does require a separate license, but you can see that the two products are very tightly integrated. The information that the Structure Designer writes to those geometry can be picked up by the weld application, and it's very fast to create welds, and it's also very fast to annotate those. Another thing to note here is that the rules that determine what the size and shape of those welds are going to be can be controlled by each individual customer. The product is shipped with a base set of rules that serves as a sample, but again, each customer can configure their own rules. I hope you enjoyed this movie.